This is from the beginning when the Chinese government punished anyone that talked about the coronavirus, saying it wasn't real.
Yes.
Saying that it was rumors, and if you talk about the coronavirus, then you will be punished and go to jail.
Yes.
And we just wanted to remind everyone the mental state they put everyone in when they declared that it wasn't real back when it first came out.
So it's just a wake-up call because we've seen so much disinformation and misinformation come out of China, a lot of finger-pointing, a lot of blame, a lot of nonsense, a lot of deflection. Let's just look at what they were saying in the beginning. We just have to see this before we start. Okay.
1号傍晚，武汉市公安局官方微博发布消息称，关于当前武汉市肺炎疫情的情况，8名散布谣言者被依法查处。通报称，近期我市部分医疗机构发现接诊了多例肺炎病例，市卫健委就此发布了情况通报。但一些网民在不经核实的情况下，在网络上发布、转发不实信息，造成不良社会影响。公安机关经调查核实，已经传唤8名违法人员，并依法进行了处理。同时，警方提示，网络不是法外之地，在网上发布信息言论应遵守法律法规。对于编造、传播、散布谣言、扰乱社会秩序的违法行为，警方将依法查处，绝不姑息。希望广大网民遵守相关法律法规。不造谣，不信谣，不传谣，共建和谐清朗的网络空间。
That's how the coronavirus spread around the world. Just to remind everyone. I just always have to remind everyone.
Yeah, it's if you were to hear that and not see what it is, it's basically all the different Chinese presenters from state TV saying the exact same things like robots, reading a script about how, you may not spread rumors about a so-called pneumonia that's spreading and that 8 people have already been punished for doing so, and
build a harmonious society.
Yeah, and the internet needs to be harmonious, and you're not allowed to use it to spread rumors, and you'll be punished. That's the whole point. It's against the law. And now we all know that it wasn't rumors, and that the people that they punished that they were talking about were the doctors like Li Wenliang, who ended up dying of coronavirus. So we have to always look back at that and realize that when the Chinese government puts out official statements like this, that they are usually lying.
It's usually...
And it's self-serving. It's they're protecting themselves.
Sure.
So, don't forget where this all came from.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, everyone who's now got weird conspiracy theories buzzing around their heads, remember, this is how it started.
Yep.
Anyway, some things are not holding up very well, as you might see over here. We have the China state-affiliated media presenter. His name is Andy. And he posted something a couple of days ago saying, for clarity, Shanghai is not being locked down over the next 9 days. Half the city will be open and operating fully at one time. In Puxi, life goes on as normal. Today, despite Pudong being locked down until April 1st, this is a new approach to limit impact on the economy.
We thought this was a great way to start this whole shebang, to show you what's going on, because what they did was they got foreigners, like Andy, for example. He's a agent of the Chinese government, right?
Yeah.
Like a propaganda agent.
Yeah.
And what his job was tasked out to go and say was to limit the impact of coverage. They didn't want people to run around and say, this is going to be crazy, what an archaic lockdown, this is so draconian. They wanted to kind of avoid that. So they're like, this is like a dynamic approach. Chinese government's only going to put down a lockdown in one area. Mm-hmm. The other people can go free and we'll trade off.
Yeah, right? So it's not going to be a big deal. There is something that I have to point out right now, okay, that we've received confirmation of, is that the government has basically they're giving free hampers of vegetables, which are very unimpressive, I got to say. You have to pay for them most of the time, but the ones that they're giving away for free are only for hukou residents, so people who have like a resident, they were born in Shanghai basically, or they naturalized. It's like having a passport.
Sure.
People with hukous and foreigners. Now, I found it not surprising that they have decided to put foreigners above Chinese people here? Because if you're a Chinese person who just moved to Shanghai and you're just working there, for instance, maybe you're a family member from out of town, whatever, you are not on that list. You are shoved all the way down. Foreigners get put first, and so do like local residents. And the reason for this is they understand that if foreigners are very badly impacted, the news will spread faster. Internationally.
They have access to the outside world, right? They have VPNs.
So they're unfairly putting foreigners above non-hukou holding Chinese residents. Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
So when you see foreigners reporting, you got to understand.
So the first thing I wanted to point out is this mass testing thing.
Which you can see in the background there.
Great, right? Whatever. This is the throngs of people that are pushed up against each other for hours at a time that are potentially super spreader events every time.
Yeah.
So the Chinese government thinks it's better to hit those testing quotas than to actually stop the spread of coronavirus.
Yes.
Because actually, at the end of the day, they don't actually necessarily care that there are people getting coronavirus.
Yeah, because people aren't dying of it. The Omicron variant is not
They're dying
deadly.
a lot less, right?
Yeah, it's not deadly.
It is deadly.
It's deadly to people who are vulnerable, like elderly, people who have, pre-existing conditions.
It's not deadly compared to the
compared to the other ones.
Variants.
Yeah. Really, it's not. Like, if you compared it to the others, it's not deadly at all.
Sure. It does kill people.
Of course it does. It does. I mean, but the whole point is that they are willing to put people's lives in this ridiculous lockdown and put people at risk rather than allowing people to quarantine at home.
That was my point. My point was that they don't actually care if people get it or not. The point is this is a propaganda stunt, and that's because Xi Jinping, the current dictator of China, is up for re-election. When I say election, I'm only talking about internally.
Yes.
There's no democratic election in China. This is just the CCP leaders deciding on who's the next chairman, right?
Yeah.
So we have a situation where he's decided that one of his principles of Xi Jinping policy is going to be the zero COVID policy.
Yes.
You can't backtrack on that. You can't walk that back. You can't say, hey, actually, I was kind of wrong about that, because what that is that's failure, loss of face in front of the people, in front of the party. And you can't continue being a leader in China. You always have to be 100% right. Every single thing you say cannot be walked back on.
Yeah,
right?
so it's more about politics than the health of the people.
It's only politics.
Yeah.
Right.
So for those of you who don't know, what's happening in Shanghai right now is the entire city is now locked down. Okay, and the lockdown has been extended indefinitely. And as we're going to show shortly, they've brought the military in to help with this. Okay, but if you test positive for COVID, Omicron variant, but you don't show any symptoms, let's just say you're totally fine. Okay, you don't feel a headache, nothing. You're totally okay. But you have to everyone has to be mandatory tested now. Everyone. Nobody can escape this. So it doesn't matter who you are, young, old, whatever, you must be tested for COVID. If you are tested positive for COVID, you are taken away. Okay? You're like just torn away from your family, torn away from your home, torn away from, even if you live by yourself, doesn't matter. You're torn away and put in a quarantine facility. Okay? And these quarantine facilities are awful. And it's usually you crowded in with a bunch of other sick people, which doesn't make sense to me either. All right? Because what if you're very mild or you don't really have it and then you're just thrown in with a bunch of sick people? You're going to get it anyway. It's just going to perpetuate around the place. The fact of the matter is you are not given the option to quarantine at home, which is dumb. Because not only is it putting a massive strain on, facilities and hospitals and whatever else they've set up there, which they wouldn't have to if the sick person could just stay in their house for a couple of days to recover, but it's also tearing families apart and doing all sorts of other nasty things.